We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. This week's episode is sponsored by CityVest. CityVest has quickly become the most popular and best way for doctors to invest in top-performing real estate private equity funds that are usually reserved for institutional investors. This unique access to investing in these institutional funds is available for the first time ever through CityVest's easy and secure online investment platform. CityVest does the hard work of conducting due diligence and vetting the investments. They even get a third-party due diligence report that is posted on their website. As a result of aggregating a several million-dollar investment amount into their access funds, CityVest gains access to investing in the institutional investment and is able to negotiate better investment terms such as a 12% preferred return. You can check them out at cityvest.com or go to the link in the show notes below. Welcome everybody to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, we talk about 4 types of freedom: time, financial, location, emotional freedom. And what's grown from a small cohort of physician guests and audience has now expanded so that we're reaching more people. And with that, I'm bringing on guests doing things on the cutting edge, such as real estate, syndications, investments, business owners, entrepreneurs. So today is going to be a discussion all about passive real estate investing. And with that, we have a guest, special guest. His name is Mehdi Khachani, coming out of Miami. And he is the CEO of JMK Investing. So in today's talk will be all about real estate syndication. So Mehdi, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Liu.
Yeah, I know it's interesting because you had found us organically, which is really great. And then we were talking backstage. So just tell us about yourself and about JMK Investing, and we'll go from there.
All right. Let me, tell you a little bit about myself, and hopefully it's information that's relevant to your audience. I was at some point with a W-2, so I can relate to all the physicians that are receiving a paycheck from an employer. And eventually I transitioned, and I built my little real estate portfolio here in Miami. So actually, prior to that, I worked in the medical device industry. I was an employee of Medtronic. It's one of the largest medical device companies, and I started buying properties on the side. And as I did that, I figured that I needed a better property management. So I started a property management company. And from there, I added a general contracting business to initially just serve the portfolio of properties that I had. But then I took on third-party clients. And then from that point on, we did brokerage. And now we're serving clients and helping them identify investment properties. We do syndication. And the beauty of it is it's a one-stop shop offering. And so when we work with potential clients, we can hold their hands from the moment they decide to buy a property to the moment, through the getting them tenants, remodeling property, and eventually selling it down the road.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And I like how you reference W-2 into self-employment and entrepreneurship. But what's interesting is that so with real estate, tell us. I know the audience is really, physicians especially, are interested in real estate because of the passive income, but a lot of them don't want to be landlords, or there's high barriers. Tell us, based in general, the different ways you can get involved in real estate investing for passive income.
Yeah, so the most common way I'd say is as an LP on a syndication. So essentially you have a sponsor or general partner that puts together a deal. They identify properties that are distressed or have some operational inefficiencies, and they see those properties, at least in the multifamily side, as a value add opportunity. They go in, they improve the property, improve the financials, and eventually there's some form of exit down the road where you either refinance the property or you sell it. As an LP, you put a certain amount of money. Typically, it's 50 to 100K. Some people have 100K as a minimum contribution, and then you'll be receiving regular cash flows from the property, and eventually you have an event, capital event down the road. And these projects can take 5 to 7 years. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to do a JV. So I have actually a doctor that I've purchased property with, and essentially I identified the deal, but he's in it with me, and it's not completely passive, but essentially we own the property like 2 or 3 people, and we each have a different share of that property. And then there is the way that's a little bit more involved, which is you can buy property yourself without needing a syndicator to hold your hand. And then as soon as you buy it, you want to find an amazing property manager so that you have 0 headaches.
Yeah, it's interesting because I started my career out in direct active real estate investing, and being a landlord, and the top 3 headaches for landlord are tenants, toilets, and trash. So, and then you realize there's better ways to do it. You can go in as a partner or a syndication. So
Doc to Doc is a personal lending solution designed by doctors for doctors. We understand that doctors' financial situations change faster than an insulin drip in ketoacidosis. And we also understand that doctors are the most reliable borrowers in the world. Through our proprietary algorithm, we're able to provide personal loans at great rates with amazing flexibility, because we take into account your schooling, your specialty, and where you are in the medical journey. Doctors come to us after they've matched into residency, and we loan for all sorts of personal reasons, from credit card debt consolidation to family expenses and medical bills. We speak with everyone who applies for a loan and offer fixed interest rates and flexible term options without prepayment penalties. If you're a physician looking for a personal loan, fill out our application form now. It only takes 3 minutes, and we'll get back to you with a decision within 24 hours.
If people are interested in getting into involved, what's the easiest way to get started in terms of resources, or should they become a landlord first, get some active experience, or find a sponsor or syndicator? What are your thoughts?
I think action is the best way to do it. So as long as you get something going, you're already in better shape than just over analyzing and thinking about it. So, and you don't have to buy something very big. If you want to just experience what it is to own a property, you can buy a single unit, a single family home, look at the cash flow, and go through that entire process to educate yourself. It's not necessarily going to be the most profitable venture, but you'll go through the process of paying for insurance, property tax, working with the title company on the closing, working with the realtor, possibly hiring a property manager. Property manager should technically offload the owner from most activities. That's one way to do it. And I like I said, I prefer to do something rather than not do anything and just think about what's the optimal way to do it. I mean, doing a syndication is relatively safe, and you get a paycheck in your mailbox. And if you find the right investors to partner with, you're going to be doing very well. And the reality of it, I mean, on syndications we've done, the syndicator, yes, that's okay, but you as an LP, you own LPs own the majority of the deal, and they do just as well on this transaction. So it's just in terms, and it's okay to diversify as well. You can try one and the other and then find your right balance. What I've seen with doctors specifically is that you have so much going on, patients and follow-ups and working with insurance, and the last thing you want to do is deal with the clogged toilet. And I come from a family of doctors, by the way. My dad is a gynecologist. He owns a clinic with 12 beds. My brother is also a gynecologist here in town. Yeah. So I know it's a completely different mindset than a real estate professional.
Yeah. The other thing is, so for example, you mentioned property management, and most of my guests have either been investors, mostly direct active, and a lot of them been in like syndicators. But what's interesting is you have property management experience. So what are some things? Let's say you have a landlord and they're trying to offload properties, but they don't want to sell it. They just kind of just want to handle it passively. What are some ways to vet a property manager?
That's a very good question. I mean, you want to talk about the size of their portfolio, how long they've been in business, their processes. You want to ask for references. And then, one of the advantages we have, and I think it's key, is a lot of the maintenance is handled in-house. So we have a crew of people that are on our payroll that do maintenance. The advantage of that is if you need any type of maintenance service, you're going to have top priority because you're clients of ours. Miami, speaking of Miami specifically, and I think it applies to some other cities, is vendors can be difficult to get hold of. So having everything integrated actually makes it extremely easy for the landlord. But that, I think, you probably heard about the book that talks about the one thing. I think the title of the book is The One Thing. Once you own a property, what's the one thing you want to do right, so that if you were to do it correctly, everything else going forward is easier. And that one thing I would say is definitely picking the right property manager. And I would take it to another level. So if you were not to have a property manager, what's the one thing you want to do right, that if you were to do it right, everything gets easier running and managing the property yourself, is finding the right tenant. We spend a lot of effort, and we prefer to have the property completely empty than to have the wrong tenants in our facilities.
Yeah, it's all about vetting the tenant. And when I first got tenants into my property, it's just all about their tenant, like their character, credit history, occupations, and
income,
income,
criminal record, all of that.
Yeah. The wrong tenant can just mess everything up. So
absolutely. Let me also share a tip with your audience. So all those things you mentioned are extremely important. Character, I like to meet the person, the tenant in person. You want to make sure it has the right level, the tenant has the right level of income. On the leases, there is an area where you can specify the amount of maintenance that the tenant is responsible for. So essentially on our leases, if anything can cost less than $200 to take care of, the light bulb, I mean, they have to change the air filters. It's their responsibility. And so if you're going to manage the property yourself, or even as property manager, you want to set that threshold around 200 so that they're not calling you for things that don't need that much, that don't need your attention.
Yeah, that's so key. Now that we sort of, we got a good lay of the land, tell us more about JMK and how so I know some people are interested in property managers. Do you do out-of-state property, or you just do local property management?
Mostly local, but we have a service which is light property management service, where we can, and it works especially with debt servicers or banks on that, where we manage properties remotely. But we're focused on the US market. but property management is only one vertical of our business. Aside from that, we also have the GC, the general contracting and plumbing license. Essentially, we offer services even to third parties for remodels and new construction. And that's another group. And each of these businesses have its own P&L and leader and business leader. And then the third one is the brokerage, which is actually growing very fast. We have our own realtors in-house that lease the properties that we manage, but also lease third-party customers' houses or do transactions for buying and selling on the commercial and the residential. And then the investment. And the investment is the most exciting one. One of the things we do is we cater a lot to people from California, the Northeast, and also Latin America. With everything going on over there, we have a lot of investors that seek properties in the Southeast to kind of hedge against inflation.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. This was a very fascinating discussion. I think the real estate is, quite a attractive investment. How are you talking to clients about, positioning themselves, in the current times, with interest rates and, potential housing bubble? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, regarding housing bubble, I don't think we're gonna see what happened in 2008. So it's gonna be a correction, but it's nothing crazy like last time around. Regarding interest rate definitely is gonna impact property values. The debt service is gonna be more difficult. That's a higher interest rate. But on the residential side, the demand is affected by the interest rate. So there, if you look at a house that's worth $500,000, you have, because the interest rate is higher, the pool of people that can buy that house is also is lower. In terms of things that can be done, you want to be as cautious as possible. You don't want to be you want to be careful with how much leverage you have. Definitely a big factor. I would try to get line of credits, as many line of credits as much as possible in terms of line of credit. Why? Because if there is some form of crisis, or if the current recession gets worse, you want to be in a position to buy. So you adjust your leverage, be a little bit more conservative, try to have cash available to go after opportunities when they come up. But at the same time, you don't want to go out completely, right? The opportunities are already available. We don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So if you find an opportunity that meets your numbers today, go for it. Buy it. And I think regardless, inflation for real estate is not a bad thing. I wouldn't take... what happens when real estate... when inflation takes place is rents go up. When rents go up, property values go up. There are less people it's harder to get a loan, but still your property value is definitely going to increase in value. This has been a really interesting discussion. How can people visit your website or get in contact with you? So they can visit our website at jmkre.com. That's for the brokerage, or jmkpropertyinvestment.com. We have also jmkpropertymanagement.com. And then finally, jmkcontractor.com for the contracting services. You can reach me. You can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn. My name is Mehdi Khachani, and I think Dr. Lou is going to share some of those links on the podcast notes. But I'm always available to help. If you need advice, you're trying to make a decision, shoot me an email. I'm always looking forward to meeting new people. And my goal, I've kind of achieved financial freedom. And I think that's probably the best thing I could have dreamt of. And as long as I can sustain it, I'm happy with it. But I do want to help other people get to where I am. So if I can do that, reach out to me and I'll give you my best advice.
Excellent. And for all the listeners, Mehdi's resources will be in the links in the show notes. And thanks so much. It was a pleasure to meet with you and talk with you and just discuss the current state. And you gave some very interesting and important nuggets of wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislumdphd.com for more support. I'll see you next week.